We're heading into the time of year where we pivot from the wet part of the year to the dry part of the year, and that means elevated fire danger. Tracking not only the advisories that we may see in the coming months, but also the weather conditions that contribute to growing fires. Here's a look at the rundown of weather alerts. A fire weather watch is issued several days before fire weather and gusty winds and low humidities. When we knock it up a notch, then that becomes a red flag warning issued when fire weather conditions are imminent or occurring. Now, a particularly dangerous situation red flag warning is issued when extremely rare and dangerous fire weather conditions are imminent, extreme, and explosive fire growth is likely to occur. What contributes to that? Again, we talk about weather patterns. In the northern part of the state, northerly dry winds can develop around this pattern across the west. A low pressure system settles into the Great Basin, whereas in opposition, we have the high pressure ridge over the Pacific Ocean. It's those winds that just are funneled throughout the Central Valley that accelerate and warm as they're compressed. So we get those lower humidities as well as elevated fire danger. Again, with those north winds that tend to be very prominent in the northern part of the valley, especially for the Sacramento Valley and the northern San Joaquin Valley. Now let's talk about two of the other types of winds that we deal with throughout California. They tend to get bigger headlines as well. They're offshore winds. So here's a look at the developing weather pattern, setting up similar to those northerly winds, but then that low starts to move its way off the coast as that high pressure ridge sits just up to the north of us. That creates those stronger offshore winds. You might have heard of these winds before, not only the Santa Ana, but the Diablo winds. So those are those very dry and warm winds, but they accelerate through the hills. So they go up over ranges and then down through the valley and again off the coast. This can result in explosive fire growth. And again, we've seen many over the history of California where we've seen that explosive fire growth due to those winds. So preventing a spark, these weather elements can exist, but of course we don't get those explosive fires unless we get a spark. So what are some of the contributing factors? Metal blades plus rocks equals fires. Mow lawns, not dry grass or weeds. We've seen time and time again somebody mowing their grass and it's very dry and something hits a rock, a blade, and suddenly we have a fast moving fire. Properly dispose of cigarettes and matches, and of course watch for dragging vehicle parts. The side of the roads tend to be very, very dry. Sometimes in the summer when there's a lot of camping and hiking, as well as people using RVs or towing their trailers, even their boats, there can be a chain that sends a spark off to the side of the road, and then suddenly we have a wildland fire. One of the other things is we talk about the defensible space, and here's some of the reasons why. It's not only defensible space around your property, but also looking at the trees that are on the property, because grass, shrubs, and trees can be a ladder to spread fire. So how do we prevent that? Well, proper vertical clearance helps slow the fire spread. So when you look at the smallest brush, you want to make sure that at the top of that, the next ladder for the tree is going to be 3 times the height of any sort of vertical clearance in there. So again, trimming not only the space around a property, but also the shrubs and the trees that sit on that property. All of that being said, there's different fire behavior that happens from the daytime to the nighttime. The late afternoon, it's very difficult to have that firefight there. The highest temperatures, the strongest upslope winds, and the lowest humidity. So this is a time where fire agencies really have a tough time getting a handle on those fires. Now, if there's no wind event occurring overnight, that tends to provide the best opportunity to perhaps fight those fires. So overnight, the winds turn downslope, inversion develops, and humidity tends to come up. Again, providing ample opportunity for those firefighters to get in there and try to attack the blaze as best as possible, putting in a better perimeter. So an evacuation warning. When we have a fast-moving fire, an evacuation warning may be issued. It's due to the potential threat to life and property. So if you require additional time to evacuate pets or livestock, it's important that you leave immediately when an evacuation watch is even issued, or you're ready to go. That may mean having your car parked so that it's pointed out so you can immediately evacuate, or knowing how to have that emergency release on your garage door as well. If the power is shut off due to a public safety power shutoff, then you want to make sure that you are ready to go and you don't need any sort of electricity to get your vehicle out. Keep your phone handy and charged and have that evacuation plan. Sometimes GPS goes out. We've seen that in some of our most deadly and dangerous fires in California, and people just don't know how to evacuate. So is your fire plan ready to go? Let's take a look at a couple of options here. Will my home provide a good location to take shelter? If the answer is no, we move on to step 2 here. Is there a neighbor, friend, or family member that I can go to whose house is? Let's say they have a space for livestock if you need to evacuate some of them. If that answer is no, then what about a nearby storm shelter? Is that going to be open, and where might those be open in times of evacuation? So if any of these provide yes, so if the first one is yes, you're ready to go, or second one, yes, and then obviously third one, you're ready as well. Pets and also livestock tend to tie people up somewhat and being ready to go. The 5 P's of our go bag, just keeping these 5 P's in mind: people, pets, paper, prescriptions, and photos. You want to make sure those are ready to go in that go bag in your car, and also a couple of other more detailed items. So let's go over this in just a little bit more detail here. Wildfire emergency items. This is going to be our survival needs. Fill up the car or charge the car. Again, there could be those power shutoffs when we have high fire danger. Also charge the phone. First aid kit, medicine, food, and water for at least 3 days. Once you get to a shelter, hopefully those supplies will start to come on hand a little bit better. Important documents, that includes proof of ownership. You want to have that in case you're able to go back into that fire zone. You want to be able to prove that you indeed have a home or a property in that location. Insurance, medical, and personal ID, and a fire-resistant safe just in case you need to grab that to go, or you just don't have time. You want to make sure if you were able to get back to your home, some of those documents are preserved. A go bag, and that means emergency preparedness kit, either in the car or right by the door, ready to head out the door in case of evacuation. And again, we talked about this, pets and livestock. For pets in particular, you want to make sure you have that first aid kit as well as a carrier. Many of the shelters will require that you have pets in a shelter. An ID tag as well as food, leash, medications, medical records, and some toys if you have a chance to do that. Again, just running down the different types of elevated risk that we see. Fire weather watch, that's going to be issued several days before fire weather due to gusty winds and low humidity. Once those conditions are imminent or occurring, we get into our red flag warning. And then the most severe type of weather alert that we would have in a fire situation will be that particularly dangerous situation red flag warning. Again, issued when extremely rare and dangerous fire weather conditions are imminent and extreme and explosive fire growth. You want to keep it tuned to a reliable media source like ABC10 on our streaming channel, ABC10 Plus, as well as our broadcast channel, and make sure you have our app downloaded on your phone wherever you are, so you keep it safe. And also make sure to sign up for those county alerts. They are very important to let you know if an evacuation is issued or imminent, as well as the watches and warnings for the area. So again, the county alert, make sure that is downloaded on your phone, and the ABC 10 app. Those are going to be handy resources heading into our fire peak season.